Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, bonamiliwanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show. Tell your kids' teachers, their librarian, their principal, and also please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Jeff Hurcomb. He is here to celebrate his Help Me Reader interactive picture book. Before we invite Jeff into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by the BigGodBooks.com. They're all about helping your little ones learn about our big God. Andrea and Gabe Olson are the driving forces behind this great company, and their latest book is called A Little Love. In this book, we're going to meet G, who is feeling really sad. His best friend moved away, and now G is lonely. G asks God for a new friend. Will God answer his prayers? Join G as he learned that God hears every one of our prayers. God answers these prayers, sometimes in a way we don't expect. You can find out all about this at thebiggodbooks.com. And when you order your copy of A Little Love at that website, you'll get exclusive bonus material that was thoughtfully designed just for you. Thebiggodbooks.com. Get their new title, A Little Love. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Bunky and the Worms, The Christmas Story, the multi-award-winning children's novel written by Alexandra Trinieka. What an amazing book. This book has won the BookFest 22 award and the Book of the Year for 2021 award and 8 others. It's the perfect Christmas gift. Bunky and the Worms is all about the power of friendship, the power of dreams, and the power of kindness. What will happen if one slightly grumpy Bunky has to become a brave Christmas hero, repair Santa Claus's sleigh, and deliver gifts all over the world? Bunky's quest to save Christmas will take him on a journey into his own heart. It is the novel that proves that we are what we strive to be and never what we are failing at. We are the dream we believe in. Bunky and the Worms, The Christmas Story, is a perfect Christmas dream. Get your copy today. Join us right now from Taiwan. Our guest is here today to celebrate his interactive picture book. It's called Help Me Reader. Please welcome to the show, Jeff Hurcomb. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much for inviting me onto your podcast.
I'm very grateful. You're staying up. It's very late in Taiwan today, and we really appreciate you staying up with us. Tell us all about Help Me Reader, please.
Sure. It's an interactive children's book, as you said. I'm a kindergarten teacher here in Taiwan, and when I allow my students to go and pick a book of their choice for reading time, a lot of the times I found that they like to pick the more interactive books, kind of like the Press Here, where you press a dot and it maybe changes color, or another one called Don't Touch This Book. Those are the two I have, which are great books, and my kids love them, and I love them as well. But when it was time to write a children's story, when I wanted to write a children's story, I really wanted to write a story, but I wanted the interactivity that they enjoyed, and so that's what Help Me Reader is. It's based off this idea that the character Salsa can see the reader, and she asks for the reader's help throughout the story to solve puzzles and mazes and to help her find her way home.
Interesting. I'm curious because as I'm listening to you, I suspect that you didn't grow up in Taiwan. I'm curious how you found your way to Taiwan.
Yes, I grew up in New Zealand. So, yeah, I born and raised in New Zealand, studied there, and I actually worked there in an IT corporate job, which is completely different from what I studied IT. And then, yeah, I mean, life in New Zealand was going great and amazing. I was earning lots of money. I was a single guy. plenty of disposable income. And it just came to that point where I thought, is this going to be my life? Like, I've got this great life here. If I stay here, I'm going to get married, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to have a house, I'm never going to have a big adventure. Why not go to Taiwan for a year and teach, or go overseas and teach English? I had been teaching kids martial arts. I had some sort of a teaching background, but not like a formal education background. So I came over here, and then I ended up staying. There's a few other adventures throughout the time, obviously, but yeah, I became a much better teacher. I learned a lot, and eventually I opened my own kindergarten here. And yeah, now that's what I'm doing here. I teach kindergarten. I write children's books, run a children's YouTube channel. So yeah, I'm all invested into teaching children English here.
I have to tell you, that's a really fascinating story, and one of those winding roads that you're not quite sure where you're going to be at the end of the road. I'm curious, what, beyond just wanting to take an adventure, it takes a little bit of courage to kind of get up and leave a really comfortable position, to leave your home nation, leave your family and friends behind, and go to a completely different culture. Is there something in your personality that kind of gave you that courage, if you will, to make that leap?
Honestly, I always knew I wanted to travel. I did a couple of years before I left. I backpacked around Southeast Asia, and I always really knew I wanted to travel and live overseas for a while. As I said, I was earning good money, so I had money in the bank. And everything had gone wrong, I could have grabbed a ticket and flown home. And I'm also privileged that my parents could have also helped me with everything. And things did go bad. I lived in Thailand briefly, and my parents had to help give me a ticket to fly to Taiwan. I had friends that could help me reset my life. But yeah, I had nothing to lose. I was single. I had a girlfriend I had to break up with. But otherwise, it wasn't like I was leaving a wife or a kid or anything. I didn't have a wife or kid to take with me. So, I mean, yeah, I was a single man with nothing to lose. Why not try? And if everything goes wrong, I can always come back to New Zealand. I told my boss, hey, just try and don't give away my job too fast. If in 1 month, everything's bad, I'll come back and, I'll have my job back, please.
Well, it was nice. It sounds like your boss was nice enough to agree to that. But it sounds like it wasn't necessary after all. You've found a lot of happiness.
Yeah, I love living here, actually. It's probably, when I first moved here, or moved overseas, I definitely thought I would eventually move back. And then just as the years carried on, we had my daughter. Well, eventually we'll probably move back to New Zealand and buy a house, and we'll base our life there. But as soon as I opened my school and things started going well for me, that was kind of it. I was like, well, I've kind of got my life here and everything's going well. And do I really want to do the whole risk and challenge again, moving back to New Zealand? But this time I do have a wife, I do have a daughter, I do have responsibilities, and I do have to make money straight away to pay for all those bills. Before I was like, man, single guy, I can sleep on a cheap bed and eat cheap food for a while I, earn the money. No big deal, but with a wife and kid, you can't really do it as much.
This is true. So I know teaching kindergarten, you were exposed to the books in the books that your kids enjoyed, but reading to kids and teaching kids is different than writing for kids. What was the inspiration to become an author?
That's a good question. So, in 2020, we all went through COVID and all got locked down, except for Taiwan. We did really well. We locked down the next year. But I saw a post by a guy that said during his time, his 4 or 5 weeks being locked down, he wrote a children's book with her. I can't remember. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And this was just about the time I was starting to think, well, this is kind of becoming my life, my career, working with children. If I'm going to do this, why not be all in and, teach children? And I had a YouTube for children, channel for children. So why not write a story for children as well, like this gentleman has? And so, I started writing a few drafts of different ideas. I wrote 3 different stories, and then one day I was just thinking about which one of those I was going to pick, and I had this idea, having an interactive story. They're all interactive, but this was having a story in this character. And yes, I wrote multiple drafts versions of the story. I sent it off to an editor. She edited it for me. I went and got the illustrator, and he started illustrating. And it was about this time, his illustrations are just so beautiful. I love them so much. They're so perfect. that I started second guessing my writing. And I was like, well, I don't know if the writing's living up to his work. And so I had sent the draft book with illustrations off to some people, and everybody was okay with it. There's a few people that said it didn't really read well to them, which kind of made me think, yeah, maybe the writing's not as good as it should be. So I rewrote the entire book. It's the exact same story, but it's just written better. And I had one friend who studied English, and he helped fix all the grammar and punctuation again for me. I had another friend that was quite an avid reader. He read everything for me. And so finally I had this text that was perfect. I'd read the book a couple of times to my students before, and I just never read like the other books, you know. Maybe it's just being an author, maybe trying to be a perfectionist, but if you read a Peppa Pig book and then I read my book, my book just doesn't sound as good. So when I finally did that final edit, now it read well, and now whenever I read it, I'm happy with it. So I was really happy. And so I actually just blow my own horn a little bit. I sent it off to get reviewed, and it got the book, the illustrations, and the writing got 5 stars. So I was really happy that I got that, because I really did stress a lot about my writing. I'm not a professional writer, and you're just doing your best job, and you hope that you can get there. And yeah, I mean, with a lot of work and editing, you can.
Well, congratulations on the review. I'm curious, what are the kids, your students' reaction? Do they react differently when you read your book to them as opposed to how they react when you read a work by another author?
I didn't actually tell them it was my book when I first did it. I didn't really want anybody to know, not because I didn't want them to know, but I wanted to see what their actual reaction to the book and the story was. So I kind of just put it in the bookcase and just was quiet and waited, and they didn't pick it, so I kind of moved it to the front of the books so that they would pick it. It was pick the first one. So I read it, and then when they realized that it was interactive and they could do mazes and things, then it started coming out a lot more often, and that's when I finally mentioned to students and to their parents that actually I wrote this story, and they was like, oh man, this is cool, we're going to buy it as well. Brilliant, I love the sport.
That's really cool. So, you're mentioning that it's interactive. How, other than, we encourage parents to make every read aloud session interactive and talking to kids and asking them about the pictures and whatnot. How is your book specifically designed to be more interactive than just the conversations that we hope parents have with their kids all the time?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's actually just got mazes and find carrots, find 5 carrots in the pictures, things like that, or help the rabbit or the hamster jump across the river. That's like that, things like that. Mm-hmm. Back when I was a kid, I liked a book series called The Osborne Puzzle Adventures. I'm 30 something now, 38, 39. Don't remember my age, that's not important. Yeah, we're an adult, it's not important anymore, right? But, I actively remember reading these books and how much I loved these books, and that made me love reading, because you read and you solve a little puzzle, solve a little code, solve the maze, and it had a story to it. And so that's kind of what I was going for. Now those Osborne puzzle adventure books, they were more for elementary school aged. So I aimed this book to be about kindergarten, so 3-year-old up can enjoy it.
Now, we love, our parents have their kids in schools, and we've talked a lot about the challenges that teachers face here in the United States. I'm curious, is education, or how is education different in Taiwan as compared to New Zealand, and maybe if you're aware of how things are here in the States?
So I only know public school from my daughter and what I've heard from others, but it's tough. It's not the funnest experience. So for example, in my experience in New Zealand, I went to school about 9 o'clock. I finished school about 3 o'clock. We had an hour for lunch. We had maybe a 20 or 30 minute playtime about 10 o'clock. And the school, we would sit, would learn our lesson, but there was plenty of time to run around and playing. I vividly remember doing small group things and playing with my friends and enjoying it. So I talked to my daughter, and I feel I can't be 100% sure because I'm not in the class, but I feel like here there's a lot more just sit in your chair and learn the material, and a lot less just go out and run around and play in the sun and chase the shadows or whatever. So, but as I say, I'm not really involved in the public school area, so I really don't know. But there's another area, the private part, which is like the cram schools and things. So every child here, they have to go to a cram school in Anchenban, which is like a homework school, which is somewhat good. The children get a lot of homework. They go to this homework school and they help them do all their homework and prepare for tests. And so when they go home, they don't have to do it, just review with mum and dad. So that's all cram school, elementary school children do that. Kindergarten here is private for the most part. There are public kindergartens, but you have to enter a lottery to get in. Otherwise, you go to a private kindergarten like mine. And I've worked in a few of those. Some are good, some are bad, some are the one I worked at, the last one I worked at, the one that I learned a lot from, and that's why I believe I'm such a great teacher, was a progressive school, and it was opened up by an American couple, and they just always had new teaching theories to try, and if we wanted to try something, they would always let us. And that's one example of a great school that I think kids should definitely go to. The public schools here, my daughter went to a public kindergarten. She was lucky to get in here. They're cheap, but they just play. And there's not really much learning, which, if that's what you want, it's fine. And we definitely want to do it for my daughter. But if you wanted to try it, as they say, like, it's quite competitive, the schools here. So if you're trying to get your kid to learn a little bit more and get them ready to go into elementary school, private school might be better.
Fascinating. Really, really is fascinating. I'm curious. Are you teaching your kids in both English and Mandarin?
I can't. My Mandarin is pretty small, pretty basic. I can get around, but and I can translate some of the curriculum into Chinese. Not all of it. That's probably my next year. That's one of my big steps. I'm going to translate all of it into Chinese, not just for myself. So I'm planning to help learn my Chinese, but also for the parents, so they can see what we're learning. But most of the point I teach in English. So just like probably at any school, you'll learn by flashcards, or learn by physical items, or you learn by games. And yeah, I mean, I try to make it as interactive as possible, doing role plays, dramatic play, things like that to teach the language, and it works fine.
Yeah, this is really fascinating. I'm so happy that you took a chance and you went on this adventure, and it sounds like you found happiness. You found a wife and a daughter, and I can't think of anything that would make me more happy than that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It was a big risk to come over here, and you come here with not knowing anybody. That's one of the things I thought back when I was in New Zealand. Like, I've got my friends, I've got money, I've got everything here. Can I redo this in a different country? Am I up to this challenge? And yeah, it kind of has worked out. But I think if you're a positive person and you're ready to take a risk, kind of the universe looks after you. Most of the time things kind of work out. Sometimes things don't work out exactly like you want, or there's a few extra steps, but good things always happen to, nice people.
Yeah. Well, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about Help Me Reader and more about you.
Yeah, probably the best place is to go to the book's Facebook page. That's where I post most of the stuff. The easiest to find, like the Amazon links for the book. That's where it's published. It's also published through Ingram Spark, so it's available on like Book Depository, for example, and a few other websites through that. But hang on, I'll pull it up right now. The Facebook page, nice and easy, is just facebook.com/JW Hurcomb. That's my last name. And yeah, from there you can find the links to everything else.
Awesome. We've had a really fun and eye-opening time speaking to the author of Help Me Reader, Jeff Hurcomb. Hey, Jeff, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. I've appreciated it.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Rebecca Garner. She'll be here to celebrate her new YA title. It's called Why Won't My Boobs Grow and Other Annoyances. It's really fun, but very powerful conversation. You don't want to miss it. Rebecca is fascinating, and she has a lot of insight that you don't want to miss. That's the next episode of the podcast. Hey, you also don't want to miss an opportunity to connect with us on social media, or at least I hope you don't want to miss that. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Deadly Magic on Twitter. And of course, we'd love for you to visit our Pinterest page, Reading With Your Kids. We have a great YouTube channel, Reading With Your Kids. And coming soon, coming in January, Drawing With Your Kids. Drawing With Your Kids. We've asked amazing illustrators from all over the world to come together to create short video lessons teaching you and your kids how to draw characters from their book. I am loving doing this video series. It's going to be on YouTube. We'll have it also on our Reading With Your Kids channel. We're also going to have a website, drawingwithyourkids.com. Speaking of websites, please do visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. If you're an author, please be sure to click the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Find out how we can help you celebrate your book here on the Reading With Your Kids podcast. You can be a guest here in the podcast. You can submit your book to our Certified Great Read panel. And you can take part in our monthly promotion program. A really new feature to that program is starting in January. Also, if you are a parent or a grandparent or a caregiver or just a fan of the show, we'd love for you to visit our website too so you can sign up for our free newsletter and use the contact button at the top of the page. Let us know what we're doing well, let us know what we could be doing better, and let us know who you would like to hear in a future episode of the Reading With Your Kids podcast. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we're going to start by thanking our guest, Jeff Hurcomb. Please be sure to check out his Help Me Reader interactive picture book. I want to thank our sponsors, Bunky and the Wombs, The Christmas Story, the multi-award-winning children's novel by Alexandra Trajeka. Also want to thank Dave and Andrea Olson. They are the authors of A Little Love and the driving force behind the BigGodBooks.com. I want to thank my team. My team is amazing. Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Mirabella Q, Jordan Saley, Stephanie Davila, Skylar Strauss. I want to thank my beautiful wife, who is beyond amazing, for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be with you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.